boys and girls, and welcome to our first STEM lesson of Term 2 2020. Across the unit this term, we'll be looking at the design technologies and looking at how we can adapt materials to suit a problem and find a solution. Throughout the term, our STEM unit will be closely aligned to the work you'll be doing in science, which for this term, you'll be looking at chemical sciences and materials. So we're going to do a simple activity today for our first lesson that you can replicate at home if you choose, using materials from your kitchen, to have a look at one example of a chemical reaction that happens when you add materials together. You'll see before I got started though, I've done a couple of things to take some safety precautions. The very first thing I did was make sure that my hair is tied back so that there's no chance that it might get caught up in anything I'm doing today. And secondly, I've also made sure that I've rolled back my long sleeves. If you're not wearing long sleeves, it's not a problem. However, making sure you tuck them back if you are, so that again, none of the materials get on your clothing and your clothing doesn't get stuck in any of the materials. So the experiment that we're doing today is a simple Play-Doh recipe. And this is going to show us a very clear example of how combining materials can have a reaction and change them into something else. I've gone ahead and prepared my materials, which are all found in my kitchen today, to show you how to do this. So the very first thing I got out was 2 cups of flour. I also needed 1 cup of salt, 1 cup of cold water, 1 tablespoon of oil, and I've also chosen to add some green food coloring today. If you don't have food coloring at home, don't worry about it. It's not absolutely necessary. It's just something to add a little bit more fun to my creation today. So I'm going to start by taking my bowl with my 2 cups of flour, and I'm going to mix in my 1 cup of salt directly into that bowl. I'm going to use my spoon to avoid getting my hands too dirty just yet. I might use my other bowl to rest my spoon for now. So that's clearly all mixed in together, and you can see there are no separated parts. From here, I'm slowly going to start mixing in my other ingredients. So I'm going to add in my 1 tablespoon of oil and my 1 cup of cold water. I'm going to gently begin mixing that together. Perfect. So I can see that it's slowly starting to come together, and I can clearly see that chemical reaction of my materials coming together. Now, I don't want to forget though, before I get too mixed up in it, is my food coloring. I'm only going to add in a couple of drops because it is very strong. Anyone who's used it before at home will know exactly what I'm talking about. So I've added in just 3 little drops to my Play-Doh, and I'm going to continue mixing that with my spoon until it becomes too difficult to mix with that. Okay, my recipe's getting a little hard now to mix with my spoon, so I'm going to pop my hands in. I know before I started that I've got clean hands and that this Play-Doh recipe is just for me, so I'm completely safe to use my hands. Perfect. As I'm working my Play-Doh, I can see clearly that it's coming together, and that nice green colour is all the way through it. Now, if your Play-Doh is a little bit sticky at the end, I would start to work in just a little bit more flour just to remove a little bit of that stickiness, to make sure that you're not ending up with things all over your hands at the end of it. But that Play-Doh right there is a clear example of our chemical reaction. We took our 5 different materials and we combined them together, and they reacted to form our Play-Doh ball. Now, I'm going to make sure that whilst I have a bit of a play with this Play-Doh today, once I'm done with it, I'm going to pop it away in an airtight container. That way, in a couple of weeks when our next video goes up, you'll be able to get that Play-Doh back out and use it for another experiment further down our term if you would like to do so. Boys and girls, if you weren't able to make our Play-Doh today because you didn't have the materials at home, that's completely fine. However, I would ask, if you have the chance, make sure you join Mum, Dad, or whoever's going to cook dinner tonight in the kitchen and have a look at the way our food reacts when we add or remove heat. So when they're cooking dinner, I want you to have a look and make some observations and have a chat about what kind of chemical reactions you can see taking place within your very own kitchen. Alright, thank you so much for tuning in to our very first lesson of the term. I look forward to seeing you all back at school whenever we make it there. Thanks guys, bye.